All right, so to give this discussion a little bit of perspective, music is more so than ever seemingly ubiquitous. I mean, you hear music in radio, television, and internet advertisements. You see bands merging with corporate brands, and you even see people like Jay-Z becoming the corporate directors or creative directors for brands like Puma. So let's talk a little bit about this from the record company's perspective of why this is happening. And also, before we start, I want to give you a quote from a book called Appetite for Self-Destruction. The authors say it's because labels are trying to make up for lost revenue. So do you agree with this, and can you explain and elaborate?
Absolutely. The lost revenue that's referenced there comes from that moment around 2000 where a lot of things changed in the music industry. There are two main things that really were big catalysts for change. One is the emergence of Napster, which basically this idea that everybody could share illegally at the time music pretty much broke physical sales. Like in 2000, the record or the music industry had its largest sale of CDs ever, and from then on it just declined. And that of course was a big revenue loss for the record labels. At the same time, artists technology got a lot cheaper, and we had the sort of spread of the internet happen really fast, which meant that artists could record and distribute their own stuff. And all of a sudden, people were starting to ask, what do we need record labels for? And so the labels kind of had to say, well, we actually do have a role in both marketing and advising the artist, but we need money to do it. So what they started doing was looking into all the sources of money, all the revenue sources that are present in the music ecosystem, and said, well, we're going to take a little bit of that and a little bit of that and a little bit of that. And that ended up becoming what is now very popular, known as the 360 deal, where the label gets money from pretty much everything the artist does.
Right. So, and to be clear, this incentivizes the label to maybe push in the area of synchronization, simply because in the past, when they licensed something in film and television, they made money from the actual master recording, whereas now they are making money from the song side as well. So very, very good points. Let's move on really quick to the artist view. So, why and how is music used in communication contexts, and why are we seeing more artists merging with brands? In the past, it used to be a big no-no. It used to be taboo. In the early 2002s and 3s, I remember the Doors, saying a big no to Cadillac, who offered them $15 million just because they thought it would be extremely cheesy. Like, why are we seeing more of that today?
I think a number of things are happening there. First of all, branding has become humanized. Basically, what we've seen up through the 90s especially was that there was a push to put a face to brands rather than just having this massive faceless corporation. And that first made it more palatable for musicians to be part of that, because then all of a sudden, if you're working with Apple, you're not working with Apple, the tech company, you're working with Tim Cook. And or at least that's the presentation you can give of yourself. So I think that's important. And the second thing that makes that interesting for the artist is that it gives the artists independence. You've got this, like you mentioned Jay-Z. He's one of the examples of what we could call sort of the music, the artist mogul, right? So the artist that takes their business into their own hands and really builds a brand of their own, independent from any other sort of corporate interest.
All right, good deal. Also, I personally think from an artist standpoint too that just ads, being associated with ads is just cooler than it used to be. I mean, and I think back to the early Apple ads, the iPod ads, those were sexy and those were cool. So it wasn't sort of as corporate, sellout and cheesy as it used to be in the past. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I want to look at it now purely from the advertiser standpoint. So imagine that we are a brand and we want to get it exposed. And what better way to do that than through, young people involved with music, right? Yeah. So before we do that, I actually want to go ahead and share a quote with you from a book called Hit Brands. and they pretty much talk about how, music has given brands a chance to be heard in the crowded marketplace. Now it's nothing new, but it seems that a lot more brands are trying to get involved, place ads at Coachella and things like that. But does it always work? And just what are your overall thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, like we talked when we're talking about the artists, it's kind of a matchup, and there's a bit of an interaction there, right? I mean, without the artists being willing to work with advertisers, the advertisers wouldn't be able to do what they're doing. So I think when you're seeing things like big brands trying to be at Coachella, it's much about it's a lot about being where things are cool and where the cool kids are.
Right.
A lot of the time, there's this whole idea in advertising that you want to get people in their formative years, because then they carry their affinity for the brand into adulthood, where they actually start making money. So they want to catch people when they're young, and that also, of course, because young is hip and cool and all that. So it's a good thing to be associated with. But it is difficult to do unless you have some sort of connection, and it can't be inauthentic. It really has to ooze authenticity. So if Caterpillar were trying to advertise at Coachella, that would not fit at all. That would just be, unless it's for digging out sewage or something. I don't know, but that wouldn't work, right? It doesn't feel authentic. But if you're a bank, there are ways you can kind of think yourself into that, because when you're at Coachella, you're gonna need money. So if you can be the ATM provider for that festival, the brand is right there, and all of a sudden, the young people there will be like, oh, these guys get music. They get the vibe that's around concerts. They get it. I'm going to bank with them.
Right. I remember reading a study that was done that says, when young people see someone like a bank, maybe Chase, for example, at Coachella, and maybe even they're giving out the water bottles with the Chase sticker on the side, it's a way to kind of build a connection with the brand.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so very, very cool stuff. Another quote that I want to share with you, just in closing, from Nielsen, which is a research company, obviously, you guys, is, and they say this, and we'll kind of wrap up with this: ads with music perform better. So how about that?
Who'd have thought?
All right. So anyway, hey, good conversation, man. I thought this was awesome. Thank you very much. So everybody, what we talked about today, obviously, is how and why music works in communication context, and we looked at it from 3 different perspectives. We looked at it from the record company's perspective, the artist's perspective, and then the advertiser's perspective. So I hope you guys enjoyed this clip. And hey, man, that's it. Hey everybody, if you like the videos that you just watched, please be sure to check out my books, Business Basics for Musicians and Music Marketing for the DIY Musician, available at Amazon.com, BobbyBorg.com, or any fine bookseller. Thanks again for watching, and peace.